Hello, welcome back to Mysterious Case. In today's episode, we revisit a case in India. An addict with professionally trained culinary skills used them to dissect and dismember his lover's body, disposing of the pieces in a forest. The case sent shockwaves across the nation. Countless citizens called for the death penalty for his barbaric actions. India, a name that evokes images of a vibrant, colorful land where culture, tradition, and diversity intertwine in a way that leaves you in awe. Located in South Asia, India became the world's most populous country in 2023, surpassing China with over 1.4 billion people. From bustling metropolises like Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, to tranquil villages nestled among rice fields and deep forests, India is a vivid tapestry of every emotion. It's a place where you can hear the blaring horns of crowded streets one moment and find serene silence by the sacred Ganges River the next. India is renowned for its ancient history, serving as the cradle of major religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Structures like the Taj Mahal, a timeless symbol of love, or the ancient temples of Varanasi stand as testaments to its rich cultural and architectural heritage. Indian cuisine is a world of its own, from fiery curries and soft, fragrant naan to sweet masala tea, enough to make any food lover swoon. And then there's Bollywood, the colossal film industry where movies filled with music and dance have captivated millions of hearts worldwide. In November 2023, the small town of Chhatarpur in central India suddenly became the nation's focal point, not for its peaceful beauty or simple agricultural life. It began with a worried father, Vikas Walkar, calling Delhi police to report that he hadn't heard from his daughter, Shraddha Walkar, in 6 months. The answer slowly unraveled through a horrific case where Shraddha, a promising 27-year-old woman, became the victim of one of modern India's most brutal killers. Shraddha was born in 1995 in Vasai, Maharashtra, to a stable middle-class family. Her father, Vikas, ran an electronics service business, while her mother and younger brother led quiet lives. Though the family was once happy, her parents' marriage fell apart, leaving Shraddha to live with her father. Raised in a Hindu educational environment, she completed high school before pursuing mass communication at Viva Institute of Technology. However, she dropped out after a year, opting to work at a customer service center for a steady income. It was there she met Aftab Punawala, who later became her boyfriend and her killer. Before everything turned dark, Shraddha was a lively young woman who loved solo travel and dreamed of exploring Nepal. But a fateful meeting with Aftab through the dating app Bumble in 2018 changed everything. What began as a seemingly romantic relationship gradually pulled Shraddha into a spiral of violence, isolation, and ultimately a tragic death. Aftab Punawala. Born in 1994 in Mumbai, Aftab grew up in a middle-class family with his parents, Munira and Amin Punawala. He had a sibling, but their relationship was often strained due to frequent arguments. After graduating with a degree in mass communication from a school in Mumbai, Aftab moved to Delhi, where he began crafting his online persona. Under the handle Hungry Chokro, Aftab gained fame as a foodstagrammer, amassing 27,000 followers on Instagram. His meticulously edited photos of dishes, ranging from expensive whiskey to humble Big Macs, left many in awe of his talent. But behind this glamorous facade was an entirely different person. Aftab wasn't just a professionally trained chef, he also knew how to handle meat with expertise, skills he later employed in his horrific crime. Despite earning income from social media, Aftab still worked at a customer service center where he met Shraddha. They quickly began dating after connecting on Bumble, and within a few months their relationship progressed to the point of planning to live together. This decision faced fierce opposition from Shraddha's father, Vikas, due to Aftab being Muslim while her family was Hindu. Vikas even accused Aftab of deliberately luring Shraddha to convert her, which led him to disown his daughter. Despite this, Shraddha chose to stay with Aftab, ignoring the warning signs. Her friends noticed his possessive nature, as he frequently cut off her contact with others, especially male friends. Shraddha's life became increasingly isolated, and Aftab, with his confident demeanor and flashy lifestyle, gradually revealed his cruel true nature. The relationship between Shraddha Walkar and Aftab Punawala initially seemed sweet, but it wasn't long before cracks began to appear. After moving in together in 2018, the two tried to maintain the image of a happy couple. However, behind closed doors, things were far from peaceful. As early as November 2020, less than 2 years into their relationship, Shraddha's friends had to take her to the hospital after Aftab assaulted her. She showed up with bruises around her neck and on her face, clear signs of violence. Her manager at work also noticed something was wrong when Shraddha confided about her boyfriend's aggressive behavior. But she always made excuses for him and refused help. A close friend, Godwin, recounted that Aftab didn't just physically abuse Shraddha, he also manipulated her mentally. He frequently threatened to kill himself if she left, leaving her confused and guilt-ridden. Even Aftab's parents called Shraddha, pleading with her to stay, claiming she was the only one who could save their son from collapse. This only deepened Shraddha's sense of entrapment, especially since she had already been cut off from her own family. She once told Godwin that Aftab was intensely jealous, forbidding her from talking to male friends, while he freely interacted with other women and even remained active on the dating app Bumble. Despite repeated warnings from friends and colleagues, Shraddha chose to stay. Perhaps she hoped Aftab would change, or she was too afraid to leave. By 2022, when they both lost their jobs and moved to Chhatarpur, tensions escalated further. Constant arguments combined with financial strain pushed their relationship to the breaking point. May 18, 2022 marked the final turning point in Shraddha Walkar's life. After years of enduring violence and manipulation from Aftab Punawala, an argument ended in tragedy. According to Aftab's statement, the conflict erupted over something trivial, buying groceries, but it exploded between two people living in poverty and isolation in their rented apartment in Chhatarpur. Aftab claimed Shraddha yelled at and attacked him first. Though friends described her as gentle, the truth of what happened in that moment will forever remain a mystery, as only two people were in the room, and one is no longer alive to contradict the story. Instead of walking away or seeking reconciliation, Aftab chose to end it all. He pushed Shraddha to the floor, pinned her down by the chest, and strangled her to death. With the strength of a young man trained as a chef and accustomed to handling knives, Aftab easily overpowered the petite Shraddha. After she stopped breathing, he didn't panic. He calmly devised a plan to cover up the crime. That night, Aftab left Shraddha's body in the apartment and even transferred 54,000 rupees, about $650 from her bank account to his own. A cold-blooded act suggesting financial motives may have played a role in the crime. The next morning, Aftab went out to buy garbage bags, 3 knives, a saw, and ordered a new refrigerator to store the body and prevent decomposition. He accidentally cut his hand while preparing the tools, forcing him to visit a nearby doctor for bandages, a small detail that later became key evidence. These calculated actions show that Aftab didn't just kill in a fit of rage. He was prepared to do whatever it took to erase the evidence. After killing Shraddha Walkar on May 18, 2022, Aftab Punawala didn't stop at merely concealing her death. He turned their Chhatarpur apartment into a gruesome scene that even seasoned investigators found chilling. Using the skills of a trained chef, Aftab dragged Shraddha's body into the bathroom, where he began the process of dismemberment. With the knives and saw he had just bought, he cut her body into small pieces, meticulously separating flesh from bone. The tougher parts he burned and ground into fine powder, much like a chef preparing ingredients. This process stretched over several days, taking place right in the bathtub, a haunting image when considering Aftab's calm demeanor throughout. He then divided the body parts into multiple garbage bags and stored them in the newly purchased refrigerator to prevent the stench from drawing attention. Not stopping there, Aftab ordered soap, gloves, bleach, and more garbage bags through a delivery app, then painstakingly cleaned the apartment to erase all traces of blood and the smell of death. Every step was carried out with cold, calculated precision, without a hint of hesitation. In the days that followed, Aftab began disposing of the body. He frequently left the house at 2 a.m., carrying bags containing Shraddha's remains to a nearby forest in Chhatarpur, scattering them along paths or tossing them into a lake. Her head he discarded into a body of water not far from the town, leaving the last fragments of Shraddha in the frigid depths. Those late-night trips seemed like they might help him evade justice, but it was his excessive caution that ultimately provided the clues for the police to uncover the truth. For 6 months after Shraddha Walkar's death, no one noticed she was gone. It sounds unbelievable, but the isolation Aftab Punawala had imposed on her allowed him to conceal the crime. Shraddha had almost no contact with friends or colleagues, and her relationship with her family had long been fractured. A few sporadic Instagram messages in late May 2022 were her last signs of life, but now it's suspected Aftab sent them to throw people off. Her phone then went completely silent, and the world seemed to forget her. It wasn't until November 2023 that a call from her father, Vikas Madan Walkar, began to unravel the truth. Though he had once disowned his daughter for choosing to live with Aftab, Vikas quietly worried about her. After months without news, he reached out to Shraddha's friends, only to find they had no idea where she was either. Alarmed, he contacted the Delhi police, urging them to search for his daughter. Around the same time, a horrifying discovery in the forest near Chhatarpur heightened suspicions. Decomposed human remains were found scattered along paths and in a nearby lake. Though heavily decayed, the body parts were intact enough for police to conduct DNA testing. When Vikas's information was cross-checked with the test results, the heartbreaking truth emerged. The remains were Shraddha's. Police immediately turned their attention to Aftab, the last person she lived with. Details from friends about their toxic relationship, combined with 2 transactions of 54,000 rupees from Shraddha's account to Aftab's just before she vanished, made him the prime suspect. The investigation began, and Aftab, despite trying to appear innocent, couldn't escape forever. After identifying the remains in the forest as Shraddha Walkar's, the Delhi police swiftly tracked down Aftab Punawala. In early November 2022, he was arrested for questioning. At first, Aftab was defiant, refusing to answer any questions about Shraddha. His lack of cooperation only deepened the investigators' suspicions. They searched the Chhatarpur apartment, seizing his phone, computer, and suspicious items. Financial data was analyzed, revealing 2 transfers from Shraddha to Aftab on May 18th, the last day she was alive. Mounting public pressure and overwhelming evidence eventually forced Aftab to speak. Under intense interrogation, Aftab gradually confessed to the crime. He recounted the argument that led to him strangling Shraddha, then detailed how he dismembered her in the bathroom, stored the parts in the refrigerator, and disposed of them piece by piece in the forest. He admitted to throwing Shraddha's head into a lake and scattering ground-up bones along paths, all to erase any trace. Aftab's confession was so chillingly detached that many found it hard to believe. He spoke of killing and handling the body as if it were routine work for a chef. The police didn't rely solely on his confession. They found physical evidence in the apartment, like traces of cleaned-up blood, and corroborated his account with the doctor who bandaged Aftab's hand after he injured himself. Bone fragments from the lake also matched Shraddha's DNA, despite significant decomposition. Still, Aftab tried to downplay his guilt, claiming Shraddha attacked him first. But with the mountain of evidence and the brutality of his actions, no one believed him. The case has now moved to trial, where the nation awaits justice. After Aftab Punawala's arrest in November 2022, the Shraddha Walkar case entered the trial phase, but it was far from smooth. With over 6,000 pages of evidence, including digital data, forensic analysis, and witness statements, the police built a solid case against Aftab. By May 2024, a supplementary charge sheet with 3,000 new pieces of evidence was filed, further solidifying his position as the perpetrator. However, Aftab repeatedly appealed, switching lawyers 3 times in a year, forcing each new one to review the massive dossier from scratch. This delaying tactic infuriated Shraddha's family and the public. Even more contentious was a Delhi court's proposal to conduct a narco test, a method involving an anesthetic injection to compel Aftab to tell the truth. He flatly refused, calling it an opaque process. Still, pressure from the public and the police's persistence left him with no way out. Despite his confession, Aftab insisted he wasn't guilty of murder, claiming self-defense. His lack of remorse, coupled with demands for special treatment in prison, like bottled water and extra time outside, only fueled further outrage. Meanwhile, the case kept leaking to the media, keeping it burning in the eyes of the Indian public. Many demanded the death penalty for Aftab, especially Shraddha's father, Vikas, who hired top lawyers to fight for justice. Protests erupted outside the courthouse, with angry crowds calling for the trial to be expedited. Yet, as of April 8, 2025, Aftab remains in prison, living in isolation and fearing poisoning, while the trial drags on without resolution. Justice for Shraddha still seems a long way off. Behind the horrific Shraddha Walkar case lie terrifying details about Aftab Punawala's life that few could have imagined. According to Shraddha's friends like Godwin, Aftab wasn't just an abuser, he was also involved with drugs. He regularly used and sold substances like hash brownies, even hosting weekend parties with friends. Godwin recalled late nights between 2 and 3 a.m. when strangers would show up at the apartment to buy drugs from Aftab. Despite lacking a steady job, he maintained a comfortable lifestyle, leading many to suspect his money came from illegal activities. Shraddha had objected to this habit, but every time she spoke up, Aftab would beat her brutally. In her friends' eyes, Shraddha was once a free-spirited girl who loved solo travel and lived like a hippie. But after meeting Aftab, she fell completely under his control. He not only cut her off from family and friends, but also manipulated her finances. Shraddha often had to borrow money from her family for expenses, only for it to end up funding Aftab's personal indulgences. She once confided in Godwin about wanting to leave, but Aftab always threatened suicide or used his parents to pressure her, trapping her in the toxic relationship. Another shocking detail is that Aftab's family seemed aware of his nature. Godwin revealed that just 15 days before the murder, Aftab's parents suddenly moved out of Vasai, where they had lived for decades, as if they anticipated something was coming. They had previously urged Shraddha to stay with their son, despite her repeated beatings. These hidden aspects not only paint a portrait of a killer, but also raise questions about the accountability of those around him. The Shraddha Walkar case is not just a story of crime, but a wake-up call for Indian society. Shraddha, a bright and lively young woman, fell into a spiral of violence and manipulation at the hands of Aftab Punawala, someone she once trusted. She was isolated from her family and friends, ultimately losing her life in the very apartment she lived in. The case sparked fierce debates about domestic violence and femicide in India, where many women feel trapped in toxic relationships with no way out. Shraddha once told her therapist she feared that if she left, Aftab would hunt her down and kill her, a tragic prediction that came true. The Indian public erupted in outrage, demanding justice, with many calling for Aftab's death penalty. Her father, Vikas, led this charge, determined to ensure his daughter's killer faced consequences. Still, there's no denying the case left a deep scar on Shraddha's family and society as a whole. Aftab, now confined in prison, lives in isolation and paranoia, but shows no remorse, further fueling public anger. Shraddha's story serves as a reminder that love should not be blind. Her friend Godwin urged people not to cut off family or friends for an untested stranger. Shraddha gave up everything for Aftab, but the cost was her life. As of April 8, 2025, the case remains unresolved, leaving a lingering question. Will justice truly be served, or will Shraddha become just another forgotten victim in the passage of time?